Chapter 12 is about our service-based industry and settlements. So where do we locate homes and our towns and villages? And where do we locate our consumer services, our professional services, or our government services? And we're really focusing on the tertiary sector of the economy. The definition of a service is any activity that fulfills a human need or want and returns money to those that provide it. So services in this tertiary economic sector are maybe the majority of the jobs in a developed world in our economy. So like in the U.S. economy, most of our jobs are in the service industry. So in agriculture and mining, the primary sector, you had to look at where were the resources. So in agriculture, where was land, where was availability for water, and then how close was it to the market? Which farming land should you pick? It depends on what you're growing. In the secondary sector, last chapter we talked about where are you going to put your factory? Well, you have to look at where your resources are and how much it costs to transport your resources to your manufacturing site, and where are you going to sell your final product. So you were looking at resources versus markets, right? And other things were important too, like labor. But you were looking at primarily those factors. When you're looking at for where you're going to put a service industry, your resource is consumers. So where are your customers going to be? Where are the people who are using your resource going to be? That's the most important part. So there are three types of services. The first type is consumer services. Their job is to provide services to individual customers, and they make up about half of all the jobs in the United States. They are subdivided, so consumer services is subdivided into four types of consumer services: retail and wholesale services, education services, health and social services, and leisure and hospitality. And so what you have really here is virtually all of our career academies essentially fit into these spots right here. And so I work in the education service sector. A lot of you will be working in the retail or wholesale service, leisure, hospitality, or health and social services, or at least that's what you're looking at right now. So if you look at the makeup of our jobs, almost half comes from retail, wholesale, health and social, education, and leisure and hospitality. Then we have business services. So the second type of service type of economic job is business services. Their purpose is to facilitate other businesses. Business services make up about 1/4 of all the jobs in the United States, and they're subdivided into three types of business services: professional services, financial services, and transportation services. So if you are looking at this sector here, you're looking at financial services would be financial, insurance, and real estate. Transportation services would be warehousing, trucking, publishing, broadcasting companies, utilities. And then professional services would be technical services like law management and support services, custodial, clerical, things like that. IT for a business, that would be a professional service. And that makes about 1/4. So we've already got almost half of our job from the first, consumer services, and about 1/4 of our jobs from business services. So we're looking already at about 75% of the U.S. jobs coming from one of these two service types of employment. And then the third type of service industry would be public service. And public services, their purpose is to provide security and protection for citizens and businesses. And they constitute about 5% of all the jobs in the U.S. So you have people, if you work for the federal government, that's about 1/6 of public sector employees. If you work for the state government, that's about 1/4. Local government, about 3/5. I think the one exception to employment you would not put into public service would be teachers, because they are lumped into education services. So technically teachers work for the local or state government, but they are put into a separate category. So this is like our policemen, our firemen, your chamber of commerce, anybody who's working at the DMV, people working at the Social Security office, all of these jobs there. And so right here, government workers and other services within the public service industry, about 5%. And so we're looking at about 80% of all jobs in the U.S. come from this tertiary sector. When we look at rising and falling service employment, the service sector has seen growth in employment worldwide. But the service sector has also been most negatively impacted by the 2008 recession. So we have the most growth in the service sector, which makes sense. It makes up, almost 80% of our economy. But services are fulfilling human needs and wants, and that want part there is what really starts to suffer when you're in a recession, because you can put aside your wants, right? In a recession, hopefully you're paying for your living costs and your food and your utilities, and you're probably not shopping for fun or going out as much. So those sectors tend to suffer during a recession. And you also have people switching from like one part of a service sector economy into another. So within the business services, jobs would have expanded in professional services like engineering, management, and law. So you might have had people leaving one section. So maybe in the business services, maybe they were leaving the financial industry because of the crash, and they were entering things like engineering and management instead. Within consumer services right now, we have a lot of people leaving retail, at least brick and mortar, like store-based retail, right? Because of online shopping, and stores aren't doing as well, so you see a lot of stores closing. Usually if you have them all concentrated within one mall section, they're doing okay, but places like Sears and Kohl's are having financial difficulty. So within consumer services, you see a lot of people entering healthcare. We have a growing population of elderly people in this country, so we certainly need more people to specialize in the care of the elderly. And right now, within the healthcare industry, we also have like the insurance industry, medical supplies, pharmaceutical reps, and so that's a growing industry still. So maybe if you worked in retail for years, maybe after the recession you lost your job, maybe you would have gotten job training, and it probably would have been within the healthcare provision. Here you can see the breakdown of our jobs in the U.S. So we have, here's our public service jobs, consumer service jobs, a huge chunk, business service jobs here. And then you have manufacturing and construction, that's secondary sector. And then down here you have your primary sector, your agriculture and mining, which makes it the smallest amount of our jobs. And so when we talk about the difference between a developed and a developing country, a less developed country, this segment here, this primary sector job, was going to be up to like here. Or maybe up to here, and then the secondary sector is going to be the bulk. So in less developed countries, whether they're, like considered a periphery or a semi-peripheral country, these two sectors here are going to be much larger than these tertiary sectors. And so I know we've talked about it, but when you look at the breakdown of our economy, I think this figure in your book really shows it to you. And that's it for right now.